Every week, my colleagues and I unpack what's really happening in the world of global capability centers. We're living in unprecedented times, and most businesses aren't ready for what's coming. Many mistake using AI for simply adopting tools like ChatGPT without actually thinking about how their organizations operate. For example, how Ashish Vaswani has built RNJ model, their first open source model described as a world-class 8 billion base plus instruct pair. Or, for example, how companies are setting up their entire data value chain to acquire highly specialized expert data sets by setting up global capability centers in South Asia and South America. The real shift is happening elsewhere. Some companies are building their own models, others are embedding AI deeply into custom workflows. But many are securing long-term advantages around compute, energy, data, and most importantly, access to global talent. At the heart of it all is this: the future belongs to companies that can tap into the world's most capable, ambitious, and underutilized talent pools and turn them into a strategic advantage. In the GCC podcast, I sit down with operators, founders, and leaders to explore how the world's most important businesses are building global capability centers. Not just to cut costs, but to acquire proprietary data, develop custom AI systems, and transform their products, services, and workplaces into truly AI-native organizations. This is a podcast about how global businesses are being rebuilt from the inside out. So, Umar, for today's episode, I wanted us to dig into ARK Invest's Big Ideas 2026 report. And we've been talking about a lot of different things on the GCC pod. So I thought, maybe it's not a bad idea to get into what this report says about technology and infrastructure and execution and how they're all sort of converging right now, or the great convergence, as they call it. So let's start with the core claim that the report actually makes about growth. Historical data shows that every major technological revolution, you've got your steam engine, electricity, telephones, they triggered a step function increase in economic growth, right? ARK Invest now forecasts global real GDP growth to accelerate to more than 7%, which is more than double the historic norm. Now, given that global GDP growth has been, stuck at roughly 3-ish% for over a century now, what do you think about that prediction? Is 7%?
I think it's still conservative. I still think it's conservative. Historically, what we've seen is all these technologies that were happening, steam engine, telephone, they were basically happening at different points in time. So what we're seeing now is, as the report suggests, that these 4 or 5 forces are happening at the same time. So robotics, manufacturing, energy, AI, blockchain, all these 5, 6 different forces are happening at the same time. And that's the reason why there's a step change, like 3-4 steps change from 3% to 7%. But I still think it's more than 7% even. And it's not, I'm not saying it's too optimistic. I think we would see probably by the end of 2030, maybe we would be crossing somewhere around 10% growth rate. The reason for that is that all these forces are happening at the same point in time. And that's sometimes it feels it looks very scary, because every time when this sort of growth has happened, there has been an extraordinary amount of centralization and extreme inequality in the society. And every time when these forces have happened and these kind of growth rates have happened, we've seen massive unrest in the societies. So I don't know where it's going, but yeah, in terms of growth, I still think it's conservative.
And also, like, this overall, like, this growth story obviously has big implications on things like inflation. And so the report says Trueflation metrics indicate real-time inflation is already down to roughly 1.2%. But yet, central banks are maintaining very restrictive policies to obviously fight that inflation. So with the Federal Reserve focused on this 2 to 3% inflation, how does your thesis reconcile with this fear that exists of sticky inflation?
I think we are in deflation. It's not even inflation. It's just like inflation. The benchmarks and the numbers we are using are from the past. So if a federal bank is aiming at 2 to 3% inflation, that's because they haven't factored in when these 4 or 5 forces would come into play, where would the cost of things, it would be near zero, right? So just imagine, currently software is 1% of the total US GDP.
Yeah.
White collar work is close to 22, 23% of US GDP. This entire white collar work is going to be replaced with software, and AI would be the new software. Now, imagine what would be the cost of those things? Because what I am saying is that labor would be replaced, and when the labor would be, and it's not like that of course, there would be lots of job displacement, but people would find new kind of jobs. But the cost of existing things would be down to near zero. And that's exactly what report suggests too.
And so I was reading through it, and the report also talks a little bit about crypto, right? And so it says Bitcoin's bull case target is set at 1.5 million by 2030, which is, and that's despite the rise of stable coins and a lot of the volatility that's been happening recently. So what would you say about, like, has the proliferation of stable coins, which obviously offer protection against the devaluation of currency, has that sort of altered the long-term thesis for Bitcoin?
So first, let's discuss stablecoin or USD, let's say. So the difference between stablecoin and Bitcoin, let's say, is like stablecoin that is tethered to US dollars.
Yeah.
And then people say, for example, if it's linked with fiat, then what's the catch here? What we need to think about is, like, the catch is the money programmability. When someone sends you money, for example, if you are in Dubai and somebody's sending you money from US, it takes some time. Right? There's so much bureaucratic barriers, and you can't program the money like you program your software, your workflows. You can't do it with money. When you say stable coins, so that even though it's tied with fiat, but that programmability comes in with the money. So that's a huge upside. But then think about Bitcoin. What stable coin is digital cash, Bitcoin is digital gold. And you have to think both things in perspective like this. So I don't think that the rise of US stablecoin would somehow impact gold. Similarly, the rise of cash didn't impact gold.
And even like if we bring the conversation a little bit towards AI now, like inference costs, right, for LLMs, the report says are collapsing at a rate of nearly 99% annually, which is quite cool and crazy at the same time. But if the cost of intelligence is tending towards zero, how would you say AI companies will maintain revenue and cover, this massive infrastructure build out?
So think about it. First of all, I would add a little bit further to it. Like, so Moore's law says about compute, like it doubles every 24 months, and it was like 18 months. AI capabilities are being doubled every 5 months. Just imagine, it's super fast, right? It's 4 times the speed of compute doubling. Now, I think just imagine what we were just trying to set up our infrastructure, and we're doing this conversation, and we had to rely on this third-party tool. And we thought probably we should write our own tool because it was so crappy. There's so much to be done. The people who are using AI are spending 4 to 5 more hours on the workplace doing stuff because so much latent ideas. They never were able to execute without executing. So you will see a lot more software, a lot more tools, a lot more AI to help us build things, execute our ideas. And I think that, and currently we've seen robotics as part of our core workplaces. So imagine 2 years from now or a year from now, we have robots too. Now we have to program them to like software, right? Yeah. So for example, so when you see all of this, I think at the end of the day, it would be win-win for all of us. But one of the challenges would be the ride would be very bumpy. There would be massive job loss along the way, at least for some time.
Yeah. And I also think like that same thinking applies and shows up in how they look at autonomy as well. The report says that Waymo has successfully deployed driverless cars in major cities. I mean, we all know this, but Tesla still relies a lot on driver supervision systems. Waymo currently, I think, has the optics of, and focuses optics of a winner with actually having cars on the road. Why does the report bet so much on Tesla then dominating this robotaxi market?
So first of all, at the end of the day, we think the report suggests with Tesla's vertical integration that allows Tesla to aim a cost of 20 cents per mile, roughly 50% lower than Waymo. That's the major thing why Tesla, what the report suggests. Of course, Kathy has some inclination towards Tesla too, if you know historically her reports and all that, but it's true. I feel it's true as well because Tesla is all vertically integrated business. It's not a FSD stack only. They have their own cars. They have their own infrastructure that build cars, and then on top of it, they have their own FSD systems that allows them to bring that. Imagine 20 cents a mile, right? So that's the reason why Tesla is still in terms it's more optimistic. The report is more optimistic to a Tesla. Waymo is great, but the supply chain of Waymo is not that. The lidars and all that stuff, and then their car manufacturer somewhere else. So that's the reason. But still, I think both would be the winners. Tesla would be great for certain use cases. Waymo would be great for certain use cases. But yeah, that's what the report suggests, that they're more optimistic toward Tesla. And the reason for that is the cost of mile is way more cheaper for Tesla because of its vertical integrated stack.
And so the report also talks a little bit about or hints towards, the geopolitics of it all. It says China has released high-performing open-source AI models like DeepSeek. We know this, despite the bans on U.S. semiconductor exports. Would you say the United States is at risk, genuinely, of losing this AI race to China, given their aggressive, embrace of open-source development?
China is big on open source. If you see, most of the world is now using Chinese open source models. Even in A16Z published a report that 90% of the startups are using Chinese open source models to build application stacks. So yes, I think when it comes to US, and I don't think the restricting chips it actually pushed China to build their own stack. And Jensen Huang talked about it. Like, chip manufacturing is primarily a manufacturing job. And if you think China is not good in manufacturing, then probably you're wrong, right? But at the end of the day, I think with two major advantages that US have. Number one is they have a lead on big AI systems, like they're way ahead, at least 6 months to a year. And the second major thing is the incredible capability of US labs of building the great platforms. So if you use DeepSeek, it doesn't feel as good as you're using Anthropic, like Claude, or let's say if you're using OpenAI, right? Most of the labs, Chinese labs couldn't figure out how to make voice AI work with their models. And OpenAI voice AI is better than 11 labs, right? So I think that application engineering, both at the platform level and also the application stack, other than these, like, for example, think about Open Evidence. Open Evidence is a platform that's basically, I think we've talked about it, third of American practitioners use Open Evidence for referring to different evidences. So the application layer stack is very strong when it comes to US. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's probably 6 months, max of a year, kind of a difference, and that's it. So that's what the report says.
Yeah. And then all of this sort of runs into a very real physical constraint as well, right, around this, which is energy, of course. The report also says that environmental concerns regarding the massive energy consumption of data centers are growing, but energy production has been stagnant. How can we support the exponential energy demand that's out there right now of AI?
We've already, haven't you seen, orbital data centers are already moving lots of energy there. So orbital data centers are, Elon said, like, probably 36 months, given a timeline, and then also nuclear. So that's why earlier the report suggests 4-5 parallel forces are at play. It's not just that AI is happening, energy infrastructure is being revamped entirely. So I think this maybe in the shorter term there will be some bumps, but in the longer run, I think we're good with energy and climate-friendly energy. See, space have no clouds. Space, there's no night and day. There's no vacuum. So space has all the things. And Elon said, like, probably currently even the atmosphere is we just lose 30% of the energy just to the atmosphere. Just imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So think about it.
That's crazy. And I think that also kind of brings us then to how capital gets allocated in this environment, right? And so the signal from the report is that the S&P 500 continues to hit all-time highs, driven by a few mega cap tech stocks, leading many to passive indexing. Now, why should investors look beyond passive indexing when the S&P seems to be like the safest bet?
Benchmarks are backward looking. We already said that they weigh companies based on the past success. I think in the kind of disruption we are in, that traditional word order no longer applies anyways. So I think the report suggests that innovation strategies will compound, I think, at 35% annually, and the traditional benchmark will struggle as legacy incumbents. So, like traditional auto and finance are disrupted by AI and robotics. So, yeah, I think, I mean, benchmarks are not. Technology is moving far more faster than benchmarks and all that stuff.
So we talked a little bit about. Sorry, say that again.
It's explosive. I mean, how would you factor in? We've been using all these models. We've been building different platforms on top of these. You see what's happening. I mean, there's a massive. I was using for my own coding work. I was using Claude 4.5, and then we just moved to 4.6, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
How there's a massive change, and someone says like probably they've underbranded. It was Sonnet 5, but they just underbranded it to 4.6. But it's so good, I'm telling you, so good.
I did use it yesterday with Claude Cowork as well, and yeah, you can actually genuinely feel the difference. Yeah. So we touched on like Tesla and EVs and automakers. So let's talk about that a little bit more. The report also goes into how legacy automakers are pulling back on their EV targets and are very much focusing on hybrids. And the main reason the report says for that is cooling demand. So does this retreat of companies like Ford and General Motors from previously having aggressive EV goals suggest that, like, what does it say about the EV revolution?
So, I mean, EV revolution is well on its way. The report suggests it's harder for these companies to compete. If you're thinking about Tesla as a car company, you're wrong. No one would remember Tesla as a car company. People would remember it for Optimus, right? So it's a robotics company. So to build cars, if you're not a robotic company, you can't compete. So Elon talked about this a lot. He says like, just find a guy. He says this about robotics and also about AI tooling as well. Like imagine you time travel to the past, but this time you have your MacBook and you have Claude or Grok, right, with you, right? The kind of work you can do in an hour, and you would see people in skyscrapers filled with people. They won't be able to do the same amount of work you would be doing just with Excel and your MacBook and Claude. So there's no comparison, right? Yeah. There's absolutely no comparison. So and he said this: there are companies that are entirely AI native. It's not like there are some of the work is done by humans and some of the work will be done by AI. The companies are entirely AI native. And when I talk about AI, it's not just about using Claude or these tools, it's about robotics too. Yeah. Then there's no way you can compete with them. I mean, just think about it. Like someone is using Google search and Google for their main source of information and engineering, and they're still subscribing to Substack and all that. And another guy is using Claude. Is there a comparison? There's no comparison. So that's what's happening to the report suggests to legacy automakers. They're not able to compete. But I think it's not like that. They would be able to compete if you see already Tesla is not. Maybe you can talk about Ford is not, but if you see BYD, Tesla is. BYD is way ahead in terms of engineering and manufacturing. Yeah, within US, maybe Tesla has a lead.
But you also mentioned, I remember, like maybe it was last week. You also told me that Tesla is actually cutting back their manufacturing capacity.
Yes, yeah. Two cars, Model Y and Model Y, and there was another model. Yes, they are replacing those with Optimus. Assembly lines are being replaced with Optimus. By the way, car is just a robot.
Yeah.
If you have FSD and all that.
So I think, yeah, that's true, because then I think it becomes more about like having this DNA, right? That then is almost like helping you transition to being a robotics company before you're a mobility company. So yeah, there's very interesting things happening. And I think, so the report also questions whether our core economic metrics still work, right? And it says like, as technology demonetizes services, for example, like AI curing diseases, and you have free digital entertainment and all of those things, traditional GDP measurements could like shrink or stagnate. So if AI and robotics drive the cost of goods and services to zero, what will happen to GDP? Won't it shrink? Won't it like sort of make it look like a recession?
So GDP is a broken metric. Seriously. So, I mean, if you think about GDP, if you today cure cancer, GDP would represent this negatively, because the people won't be spending that much on chemotherapy, right? So that's what GDP is all about. I think in the longer run, we would have far more free time and we have far more things to do, better things to do. I was at Disrupt, and Vinod Khosla said this to me. Like, he said, like, jobs should not be servitude to survival. How many people in our workplaces like doing their jobs? They don't. I know they don't. They hate doing the kind of work there, especially if it's repetitive and boring. So AI would be doing all that work, and then humans would be taking that thing forward from there, right? So I think we should remain optimistic largely. And probably we need to look at, as the report suggests, a gross national income, or a new metrics that measures real wealth and productivity rather than the velocity of the money. We are moving from a financial economy to a information economy, and we need to upgrade our benchmarks according to that.